Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah,
Make sure you got the right microphone.
yeah, it's
Well,
hotel,
yeah,
they bought owls, I mean, they bought White Mountain.
okay, and
A
Ashland.
little out there.
Yeah.
And then there's still, somebody said there's still.
I think you
talk
do have the
about,
right one, but-
Jacqueline, I don't know.
The Yeti.
It was on heavy go out and then it backed on, I don't know why.
They bought those
It's
little
not.
cottages too, the Gilchrist cottages that are right
Yeah,
on
microphone
the
is-
Yes.
line for their
Who bought
employee
those?
houses, the Owl's Nest,
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
The one right at the interstate.
right at the
Oh,
interstate,
oh,
yeah.
yeah,
They bought that for the employee houses.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, Brian Lash.
It's a smart move, because, you
Absolutely.
know,
Yeah,
That's a nice location too.
right on the
Right
highway.
on the highway.
They're cute little places too, I mean, they don't look super run down, it's
No,
in
last
comparison to
time
some
I
of
saw
the.
them, which was a while ago, they were decent, well kept, old.
Yeah, old, but well kept, yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
You're live.
Did they fill in the pool or something? Did I see that they were filling in the pool or? I don't know. Maybe it wasn't that. Somebody filled, oh, I know what it was. I was looking, the Beacon North filled in their outdoor.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
they
yeah,
can
yeah.
not, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that.
I was just looking, this was
Yeah, I'm just looking at reading the minutes.
this is big, but this 450,000, it's
It's
a
a
school.
school.
Yeah,
And then New Hampshire retirement's another 42 or
yeah, I
something.
saw that.
so
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
Put those together, it's pretty much
Yeah.
95% of it.
Yeah, 43. And
Hey
you
there.
could spin one of the comfy chairs around and sit in that. There you go. We'll get the primaries tomorrow, so that's why the room's kind of,
I'll sit on this one. Which one?
Yeah. pull that right out of there if you want more room. Elaine, I can bring it right here.
No, this is Republican ballot.
Yeah, pull it right out.
Oh,
okay, thanks.
I had this one or two that are contested.
Oh, they're on.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't even look at
Executive
it.
council being contested.
Right.
Oh, okay.
County commissioners.
Oh, okay.
Commissioners are being contested, which
There's a
is
couple.
I don't think it's sheriff.
I
Registry
should've
of
looked at
deeds.
the ballot.
Okay. I know some, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple.
I'm down to stay here.
You all set?
Yes, sir.
Ready?
Yes.
I will call the meeting to order. 5:30. First order of business is the minutes from last week, or last meeting. Do you have anything?
I have nothing.
Do you have
No,
anything?
No, sir.
great job, Jane. I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of August 22nd as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. We also have non-public for the 22nd. And I will make a motion to accept the non-public meeting minutes as presented.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye. We have the public hearing tonight.
No, so coincidentally, we actually did it correct.
Oh, okay.
The last time you had the second public hearing, you corrected what you did erroneously previously, which is accept the whole amount
Right.
versus the first installment. So what we did was actually correct, so there's no need to hold a public hearing this evening.
Oh, good.
So we don't have to hold one for the second.
The second.
installment.
No, because at the last meeting that we had, you accepted the full amount, which is the correct way to do so.
Okay.
Oh, perfect.
I double checked.
I did that on
Okay,
purpose.
that's on my
Yeah.
List
on
of-
mine too.
Okay, see that?
Yep.
Yeah, no, we
Great
double
minds
checked,
think
we
alike.
went back and read the minutes and we double checked the
Perfect.
NHMA's guidance and we actually did it correctly.
Fantastic.
Got it. Send that one off, all right. I know I have a bunch of stuff, but let's do the town manager's report, because you might cover some of the things that I or the other board might have.
Sure.
Do that first, and then we can go around here.
No problem. So at the last meeting, I thought I was asked to write a letter to the planning board encouraging their participation in the Invest New Hampshire grant program to update our land use ordinance. That letter has been drafted and it will go to the planning board on Wednesday.
Perfect.
Excellent.
Thank you for that.
No worries. The RFP for the sewer lagoon upgrades has been advertised. We have started receiving some interest and inquiries back. The deadline for the proposals is the end of this week. And we should then review the proposals and have a contractor in place on schedule. We were hoping, I think, for October. So I did speak to Nate on whether those, the project could move forward throughout the winter, and he said yes. So we're hoping to keep that ball rolling. Good. The river intake pump that failed last month that we took out of the river with a crane and then had to be disassembled to see if there was any chance of us being able to rebuild it or add some, additional parts to. And from what Nate told me, it's an issue with the casing, and they said essentially it would not be cost effective for us to, essentially we'd be rebuilding a brand new one if we were to do so. So it would just be more cost effective to buy one. So Weston Sampson is putting together a quote for the new pump for us.
Yes, I mean,
I have no idea. I asked Nate, he said about 10 years ago, it was about $75,000. So he's thinking now about 100. So, but that's just a shot in the dark.
Is there money in the CIP?
There is money in
There
the
is.
CIP.
I know this,
Yeah.
is it 100?
I don't know the exact figure.
I bet to see it.
I think it's close to it.
Mine too.
That's in my budget folder.
There's 35 in there. And we put another,
I think there's
10.
35 in there, but I think at the most recent CIP meeting, we added additional funds into it, knowing that this was going to be
Yeah.
an issue for us. Nate and I looked at it, he said, no matter what, he's can move some things around, we just have to refund it next year, essentially.
right,
But I'm almost positive that at the last CIP meeting, when Nate came in, we funded that greater than the $10,000 that was originally proposed, because we knew it could be potentially coming up.
okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
we'll provide an update when we get one from Weston Sampson with a little bit of a, I don't want to say a hard cost, but a
Right.
harder cost.
And again, it's just another example of how this is such a good tool to have that
Absolutely.
capital improvements program, and I think it's just so necessary to fund things, adequately.
Mhm.
Because in an instance like this, where we only have, say, 35 in there, we know we can take some money out of the other items within that same fund.
Mhm.
And then catch back up in the years to come.
Oh,
If we
absolutely.
Go too skinny, that kind of thing becomes impossible. I mean, we don't know what pump is gonna break in what year.
Yeah.
Right.
But now we have $100,000 pump to replace, and we have the money to do it.
Right.
It's just a good position to be in.
Absolutely. I agree.
While we're on Nate and his
Yeah,
failed,
yeah.
let's go down the line. So, in addition, the influence screen at the wastewater treatment plant has failed. They had removed it. It's been, it's approximately 20 years old and it's been repaired several times. They have looked at it and find that the best course of action is to replace it with a new influence screen. I guess the vendor that we spoke to was surprised that it was even still
Right.
in service. So that is roughly $78,000. We looked at Nate's CIP today, and he does have over $1 million in his wastewater bottom line. So he feels that he can move some things around to account for this $78,000.
So that's one of those ones that kind of doesn't have a choice.
Doesn't have a choice
We're buying that one whether we want it or not.
whether we want to or not. I know that he took a boat ride on the lagoon today.
Did
So yeah, him and the boys did. So he was working on potentially trying to troubleshoot it with one option, but they were going to try to reverse it to try to see if there was something stuck within it that could maybe be projected out. But he said that was kind of a shot in the dark. And like I said, he's planning on the having to purchase a new one.
Thank you. Thank Nate for being awesome. On top of things, gets it done.
He sure is.
Yeah.
So I will definitely relay the message.
Yeah, I know we appreciate him.
In addition to, we're gonna just keep going with Nate tonight.
That's okay.
Yeah.
The Route 3 water infrastructure improvements. We spoke at the last meeting about authorizing Weston and Sampson to start doing some investigative work and putting together a improvement plan for the Route 3 from the Boyce Brook pump station
To the flume.
to the Flume pump station. It's about roughly a mile. So Weston and Sampson is going to start putting a proposal together for us so we can move forward with that as well.
Fantastic.
Whether it's a bond issue or whatnot.
This year or next year, whatever, or next year.
At least
the
get
following
us,
year.
prepared for the inevitable.
Yeah, no, that's great.
So that is also in the works with Weston Sampson.
Fantastic.
I'll talk about something good with Nate now.
Okay.
Yay.
We were able to hire 2 new employees in the Public Works, water, solid waste, kind of under the Public Works Director. We hired one that's going to be primarily at the transfer station to give them a third man to rotate with, because with vacations and holidays and sick time, it's
Fantastic.
becoming an issue, and having one person on duty there is not really safe or, an ideal scenario. So
Right.
now we can always constantly have 2, which is a good idea. The second employee will work partly in the water department. He has a water operator
Class one,
license,
yeah.
class 1 water operator license, and also has worked in surrounding communities public works department. So we
And he's
feel
eager to get more education.
eager to get more education.
Yes.
He's training this week
Yeah.
on backflow prevention, and we'll start next Monday. So
Fantastic.
we're feeling a little bit better going into the winter and the fall, knowing that we'll have adequate staff to
2
plow,
more flowers.
and also get someone in the water department to start kind of training underneath
Yeah.
Dave.
Has the solid waste facility employee already started?
They did, they started
Yes.
last week.
Okay, because I saw someone there today.
Yes.
Yes.
I thought they were just visiting. and I was like,
No, he's actually
good. Because Russ and John were there.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
okay, that's the 2 people
We
working.
can say who it is, so people know.
Oh, yeah, it's
Larry
Larry
Vance.
Vance.
Yeah, which is fantastic. Yeah. Yeah, good choice.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So, like I said, Nate feels a little bit more comfortable going into the winter season, having some plow drivers, knowing we're losing some staff this winter.
Yeah.
It may look like we have more staff than we need right now, but it's just with anticipation that we know we've been a man down all year since April, and then we also
2
know
men down, yeah.
we will lose one in November, so.
Right, right.
So, yeah. Nate seems to be smiling a little bit more.
He's breathing at least now, yeah,
That's-
yeah.
All good
Yeah.
news.
Also, Nate, the public work crew fixed the chain link fence at Deb Salino's a couple weeks ago, so that has
At
been
the end of the road
installed
there,
at the
yeah.
end of the road, at the end of Pollard Road.
We'll just specify, it's not at.
It's not at
Deb's.
Deb's, right,
It's
it's at the
at
end of Pollard Road.
Next to.
On
Deb's
town
house.
property.
Neighboring,
Yes, there you go,
neighboring.
thank you.
But that,
Although if your fence needs fixing, Deb, I'll come help you with it.
but that has been installed, so
Fantastic,
another thing checked off this list.
good.
Chenard site cleanup deadline. I have been in touch with Attorney Dennis, and he's reached out to Attorney Marshall's office, and we are going to try to schedule a site visit for a final kind of formal site visit now that the deadline has passed for cleanup. Ron was able to go out and take some pictures for me so we can document the current site, what the current site looks like. Jason feels that it is important if we do a final and kind of formal last site visit with Bruce Marshall and Joe, and obviously Jason, if we want him to be there and whatnot, to kind of document final, I guess.
Yeah, I know what you're talking. Should we give him some possible dates to put him out there and, or is he gonna come back to us with possible dates?
He was gonna
from
come, he
Marshall?
was throwing some around with Marshall, end of
Okay.
the month was what it was looking like, so end of this month.
Okay,
If there are any days that do not work well for you, I will tell Jason, now that we got the pictures and we can get, Attorney Dennis really just wanted to document what the site looks like right now, and so then he can express that to Mr. Marshall, to Attorney Marshall, and say, this is what we see. We'll set up a site visit for this day, maybe give him a little bit of an extra time
the
to.
last week of the month, the only day that doesn't work for me is Thursday morning.
Okay.
I'm available afternoon time on Thursday, but other than that, that week looks good during the day.
Okay,
I'm pretty flexible that week.
okay.
Myself.
All right, I will relay that to Jason, and then I will touch base in an email, and we'll set up a date.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
No worries.
Chief, you went out and took more pictures. Was there any much difference, any improvement that you saw significant?
From my vantage point, I didn't see too much different, other than things have been moved around. Maybe another coverall's been installed.
Gotcha. Oh, like one of
Oh,
those
okay.
target garage
Yeah,
things.
there
yeah.
definitely has been a new cover all installed. So
Okay.
so.
Thank
I mean,
you.
the big tractor trailers are still there.
They're still there, the boat's still there.
Yeah,
And I'll send some pictures tomorrow. Yeah, I just got the main property side first.
yeah, from the road, sure. Yeah, yeah.
And our deadline was actually a little bit later than we all thought. I think we all were thinking the deadline was in August because that was our original letter. But then after we went on our site visit with the attorneys and we addressed the main priorities, we gave them additional time because of that letter. So the
Okay.
deadline didn't even come to until September 1st. So
Okay.
we were thinking we were a month behind, but we're really only 2 weeks behind. So.
And we don't intend to start imposing fines until after the site visit at the end of the
Until
month.
after the site visit, but it is outlined in that letter we sent that starting September 1 was our date of when we could start imposing fees, correct?
So once we do the site visit, will we retro?
I believe so, but I guess that's something we have to run by Jason, but I believe so, yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Coalition communities. So the coalition communities is a group or an organization that the town of Lincoln signed on board with a few years ago. It has to do with the SWEP legislation and the donor towns and receiver towns and the excess state tax revenue. At one point had to be returned back to the state and was redistributed to what they call
Right.
receiver towns. Town of Lincoln was always a donor
Donor.
town because we always raised more than what we actually needed essentially. Now that legislation is changing and they want to be more active in the 2023 legislation cycle and put some language or proposals out front. They just want reconfirmation from all the towns that we are still, we still would like them to represent us, that we would still like to be part of the coalition, and that, you know, essentially they can still charge us the nominal amounts that they do for attorney fees and whatnot. So.
I would be supportive of that. I mean, 1 year going back to the donor town
Yeah.
will
No
cost
kidding.
more than whatever, 10, 12, 20 years of fighting.
50 years. of-
Yeah,
And
and
hiring
the bills that we
legal.
receive are very
They were-
nominal.
They were
They're
always
small, yeah,
minimal
yeah.
because there was
There's-
20,
There's something, yeah, I
20
think there's,
towns.
yeah,
splitting one
bill,
attorney
yeah.
bill.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd rather pay 1/20th of an attorney bill than 1 year of
Yeah, no kidding.
donor town. The last time we looked at this, which was years ago.
Yeah.
I remember doing the calculation that it would cost the town of Lincoln over $1 million to do whatever they were
Yeah.
proposing at the time, in 1 year.
Yeah.
For every year,
Right.
so.
Do you want a
know,
motion?
I do need a motion. They gave us, I need a motion that we do, that we're going to enter into the memorandum of understanding for the Coalition Communities 2.0. And then I also need further designation that I am authorized to be the town's representative at their meetings.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
perfect.
Thank
There
you.
you go.
I'll just need a signature, most likely from OJ. I'll fill it out and then
Okay.
I need to sign it and you need to sign it as well. Okay, great. The primaries are tomorrow, obviously, that's why we're all set up and ready to go. Just as a reminder, polls open at 8 AM tomorrow.
Close at 7.
Close at 7, yep. And then also just a reminder of our Riverfront Park meeting this
Wednesday.
upcoming Wednesday at 11 AM.
And can I go back to primaries? Now, there has to be a quorum of the board here tomorrow. I plan on being here most of the day. However, I do have to bring a granddaughter to a doctor appointment.
What time?
I have to leave, it's in Middleton unfortunately, and I have to leave here.
In the afternoon.
I have to leave here about 12:30, and I'll be back here at about 2:30.
All right, I'll be gone from 9:30 till 12:30.
So that's about perfect. Okay, great. And are you gonna be here at that time?
I'll try to be.
And then after like 2:30 or whatever, when we're both here, then you can take the night
Yeah,
off.
we'll work it out.
Okay,
Okay, that'd be good.
but you could be here in the morning to cover when he's not here, and then when I leave, that would be great.
I'll be here from 8 till 7:30, when we start
Yeah,
counting the
yeah,
ballots and
yeah.
stuff. But I'll stay here until, I have to be in Woodstock at 9:30.
I'll be here right at 8 because I have to bring kids to school in the morning, but then I'll be here after that. But then I have to leave at 12:30, and I'll be back at 2:30. So, and you have to leave, and you'll be back around 12:30.
I
So
should
that-
be back at 12:30-ish, yeah.
Great. If Jack can be here till about 2:30, that'd be awesome.
I'll try.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jack.
Thanks.
The only other thing I do have is a legal update, but that's for non-public.
Right, I had a few things that I wanted to bring up. Number one is we still have water restrictions in place that we had voted on earlier in the summer when
That's on my list too.
that was more of an issue with the recent
Drought
rain
update,
amount that we got. I did talk to Nate and he would be comfortable with it, knowing that if something changes in the next month, 2 months, we can always reenact. them,
Did you
but-
get a copy of the drought update from the state? Where this part of the
Is,
state is no longer a drought.
yeah, it went down 1 or 2 categories.
Yeah.
I forget what they called it, but yeah, he sent me that.
Excellent.
So, if it's
I'll
agreeable,
make a motion that we lift the current water ban.
I'll second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excellent.
People for the most part have done watering for gardens and flowers. It's one
I
of
don't
our-
think anybody's filling the pools anymore.
Right,
Quite the opposite. actually.
Yeah, exactly.
skating rinks.
Yeah, pretty soon enough.
All right, I wanted to address. At the last meeting, we had a discussion. Let me just go back to it. On. The auditor's report from 21 showed the earnings of the trust funds to be totaling a negative $20,000 amount, and we were questioned on that. And I didn't know any answers, because I just was asking the question, why why it was showing negative, which I was surprised about. We got answers from, I want to find these and just read them. Got answers from the,
I haven't printed out if you'd like.
oh, do you, the, is it New Hampshire, Bank of New Hampshire?
Yep.
Got so many emails here.
Okay, we have them right here.
Okay, I'm gonna read the whole thing. And this is from the Bank of New Hampshire, which runs our investment portfolio. And the overseer of that, whose name is Charlie Matthews, said, I went ahead and ran investment performance for calendar year 2021 for each of the accounts. The trust funds were up 13.49% for the year with a balanced asset allocation as a result of strength in the stock market. Jen is correct, and Jen is referring to the town's Gendor from the town's auditing company. Jen is correct that the capital reserve funds lost 0.97% on the year as a result of the increase in interest rate that occurred over the course of the year. With that said, this result must be placed in an appropriate perspective as this account will not be subject to any loss of principal over its investable horizon due to interest rate fluctuations for the following reasons. Number one, the account holds only short to intermediate term individual bonds which have the payment of principal at the maturity guaranteed by the issuer. Number two, while interest rate fluctuations will impact the value of the bonds while they are held in the portfolio, once they reach approximately 18 to 24 months to maturity, the bonds will gradually trade back to their maturity value, eliminating any losses that have occurred on paper. The increase in interest rates has improved the yield to maturity in the portfolio to plus 3.4%, which reflects the expected total return over the average maturity of 2.4 years. It is not clear from your email if the auditor's report reflected these important considerations. As a result, it may have portrayed this portfolio as being riskier than it is in reality. Also, it is important to point out that both portfolios continue to be invested in a manner that reflects both the statutory mandates and the best practices indicated by the Director of Charitable Trust. Let me know if you have any other questions as you go along. Thanks, Charlie. So,
Was
That
this
may-
forwarded to the trustees?
They forwarded to us.
I'd say
They
it was,
forwarded to us.
it was
Okay,
sent to
perfect.
the trustees from the
Oh,
Bank
perfect,
of New
okay.
Hampshire. And then
Gotcha.
Jean forwarded to us. And this makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
Because the auditor has to look at whatever the book value.
It's a
is.
snapshot.
It's a
Right.
snapshot in time.
Right.
And just because the interest rates make that less valuable to investors out there, they're not gonna be buying them anyway.
Right.
It's just a matter of that interest rate. Once it gets up to the 24, whatever months.
Yeah,
We're
it's whole
we're
anyway, yeah.
guaranteed
Right.
the full amount back.
Right.
So, I did thank Jeannie, right? I sent her an email.
Yes, you said that you were bringing up at the next select.
Yes,
meeting.
I appreciate Jean's follow-up, so,
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring that up
We're
because
very lucky to have a trustee, Jeannie as a trustee that's on top of it. It's, town's
Yes.
very lucky to have her.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
and again, I wasn't meant to be critical. I was bringing that up last time as like a surprise to me as
Right, right.
reading through the auditor's
Yeah.
report, and then this explanation just makes sense, so. All right, the next thing I had was just an update on Granicus. Have they done their last meeting, we talked about them gonna be training. Has that
So we've
occurred?
done our user acceptance testing,
Okay.
where we went through the motions. We had to go through every single motion of every single scenario, essentially. If you were renewing, if you were just looking, if you were terminating, whatever it was. We've completed that. There were a couple little snafus that we were able to identify, which is
Fantastic.
good, very minimal stuff.
Mhm.
We changed the language on some of the forms just to kind of coincide with what we call things, so it makes more sense, the
Sure.
PID on the tax
Right.
bill and whatnot. We have not done user acceptance training, or user training in-house yet, but that is the next step, and it should happen I would say within the
Anytime.
next 2 weeks, yeah,
Fantastic.
and then we'll be good to go.
All right.
That's awesome.
It is good.
That is
yeah.
good. I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to that. And when you say in-house training, who is gonna be trained on that?
It's gonna be Lisa, myself, and we're thinking Ryan Fairbrother potentially, or Carol. The more eyes that we have sit in on the training, I think the better.
Mhm.
But it's at least gonna be definitely myself and Lisa to start.
Okay.
I'm curious, let me know what it is, I just want to watch.
Sure.
Yeah. Curious to how that whole thing's gonna work.
It's really smooth. I mean, I have access to the website now. It's just in testing. It's not live, and it's pretty cool.
Fantastic.
Yeah, if you wanna come in, I'll show you. We'll pull it up. and-
That's cool.
I'd be interested in seeing it or even going to the training.
Yeah.
Sure. I'll let you know when we
Yeah,
schedule. it.
definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's great.
You know, we did sample letters being sent out and.
Cool.
Yeah, it was really cool.
All right, I'm gonna, so I had several things, but when we got the latest, budget update from Jonna,
Mhm.
expenses through the end of August, one thing that I noticed, and again, I'm just bringing this up for a question, is that the emergency management budget is like way under. And I know a lot of times we wait till the end of the year to see what things are and to buy stuff. I just didn't know, are there plans, are there things we need, is that
You looking at fire department?
emergency?
No, that's
Oh,
Chad.
oh,
That's Chad.
Yeah.
I'm
I
sorry.
did talk to
That's
Chad at one
I'm sorry.
point, over the summer, beginning of the summer, kind of, are
Okay.
you planning to do anything? And he said, I'd love to. We're so short staffed right now because I don't want to plan anything until we have staff
Got
to do it.
Got it.
So, and no trainings or anything were done like over COVID, obviously. And now we're back into it, can do it, and he was down by 4 people or something over the summer, so,
Vacations,
yeah. So, it's on his radar, but,
Okay.
so I'll touch base with him again this week.
Just was wondering,
Sure.
I mean, everything else in the budget,
Right,
to me, made sense.
Yeah.
There were some things that we've spent 100% of,
Absolutely, right, yeah,
but we don't have, the insurance bill or
sure.
the health agency stuff,
Yeah.
we know that those are all,
One and done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and there's some things that are, there's 100% left,
Mhm.
but that's because, we haven't bought salt for the winter yet or stuff
Right.
like that. So everything seemed in line, except for that one thing was the most.
he does have plans for
Okay.
something to do, it's
Okay.
just.
When I reviewed it, it was the same kind of red flags.
Okay,
Yeah.
Electricity, heating, fuel.
yeah, electricity might go over, we
Yeah,
will go over.
We will go over, it. Same with heating, fuel, I think.
in several places.
Yeah.
I don't know I don't buy oil, but I know propane went up and is,
Hopefully.
coming,
Trending in the right way,
trending in the right direction. So I didn't know if
I buy both and oil's still high.
it is still high. Okay.
We are mostly propane, so hopefully it will fare well or
Okay.
better. I think there's only one building, right, that's on oil.
Public Works,
That's the only one that's on oil?
I think so.
Oh, okay.
Fire department, library,
This building's
Community center?
propane.
community centers, propane,
Okay.
this building's.
Don't they still have an oil backup though? They still have that big boiler.
No.
No, that's all propane as well.
No,
Oh,
they
that's right,
have,
it was
they
the
have,
bedroom. And the
3, I
mini
think.
splits, yeah, right, okay.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll be on the better end of things.
Okay. We had a discussion last meeting about the HVAC system in this building. Jane, thank you for sending
Oh,
me.
yeah, I was
the-
gonna say, Jane.
History-
Sorry, I missed the
history-
meeting. I would have been able to weigh in.
That's okay.
I'm glad it worked out this way. I had plenty of time to read it
Good,
at
yeah.
home versus, if you threw that at me at
Right.
a meeting, it'd be like,
Right,
well,
right.
but it looks like we've taken some steps in the right direction.
Sure.
And I was impressed with the statement that the
Air quality, yeah.
the air quality was good. And this building didn't qualify for being in the whatever high need,
Hot, right.
because it was energy efficient to above whatever that threshold is. Not
Sure.
to say that's perfect, but it didn't fall in the, oh, this needs a lot of help
No,
category.
and I did reach out to NHEC and they put me in contact with the EEI, which is the group that did that. And we had a meeting scheduled for last week, but it fell through. We have it rescheduled, but to discuss maybe potential things or if we could do certain aspects of the original proposal, or NHEC said they also had potential rebates that they could apply. But when they first came forward and they gave us some options for rebates. Not all of them are still available. That was, a year and a half ago or whatnot. So they are interested in re-engaging with us and to look at that report if we choose to go down that road. So,
My concern
yeah.
is last winter, we froze. And every morning we came in, we'd have to go up, we'd have to hit the reset button, we'd have to wait for it to shut down. We'd, do the whole count to 20 and then fire it back up again and pray that it started, which it did every time, but that was every single day.
We think that we
Forever.
have resolved
Yeah.
that issue.
Yeah. The second half of the winter there, it pretty much ran.
It ran,
So the
yeah.
first half, while I was in the building, we froze. And then we bring her in.
Well, actually, the propane company,
White, yeah.
Okay.
White Mountain
White
sent a
Mountain Oil,
technician in.
Oh,
and
gotcha.
They replaced the, one of the blowers for the
Okay.
combustion.
Oh, was that,
Because it wasn't spinning fast enough, so outside pressure
so it was
would push
pumping the
back
relay,
against,
yeah,
it would flame back and hit the eye and would
Yeah.
trip.
Yeah,
So
trip the relay every time, yeah, okay. Well, it makes sense,
The
they didn't say
inducer,
that.
they replaced the inducer motor
Gotcha.
and it works. I don't think we reset
Oh,
it.
good.
what,
No, yeah, I don't
Then I'm
think, I
not
think
concerned.
the second half of the winter, I think fared well. Once
Yeah.
we had once we brought White Mountain in
Yeah,
and a tech in, they
Yeah.
seemed to address the problem and we
Okay.
didn't have any issues
I'm not
further.
concerned. Perfect.
Not that they're the most energy efficient units, but they're working.
No, right,
Right, yeah, they are old, they still need to be replaced, but they're not. it's
but we're
as
not in
dire
such
as
a
I thought it
dire,
was.
we're not, right, yeah, we're
I was
not
panicking.
being
last week 'cause
contaminated
we were
with,
freezing.
with bad air quality,
Right.
we're not risking our health or our well-being at this point. It's definitely something that we need to continue to put money into a
Sure.
CIP program and sooner rather than later, next year or something, look into what is our best option to
Yeah.
start chipping away. I don't think we can do the whole kit and caboodle in one swoop, but see what's priority and,
Cause it's old,
It
it's
is
gonna
old.
need replacing sooner rather than later, yeah. That's good.
We have replaced some of these units out here.
correct, and one's being
The AC
installed
units, yeah,
this fall.
and there's 2 left, correct?
I think that's the fourth, right? And we have six.
Uh,
total?
There's 6
Yeah.
out there.
So
Yeah.
you're putting another one in the budget this year?
We have, the fourth one's being installed this fall, and then we'll put one in the
One in the
budget.
budget to be
next year.
installed this next year,
Next year.
okay.
And I know in their proposal, their estimate was based on doing everything all
Doing
at once and not
everything
piecemealing
all at
it.
once.
Yet, doing that one
Mhm.
or two a
Mhm.
year has worked out, I think, pretty
Yeah.
well for the town.
Right.
And I'm wondering if we do the same thing upstairs, and I know it's different, that those are all individual units.
Sure.
Those individual units, but
They do different zones.
it's more, right,
Right.
more
And
tightly
with the
together.
new, they're 20-something years old, so would the new technology not be compatible with it, so you could do it piece by piece?
Well,
I
and it
don't
was just
know.
good to have that report because it identified like this zone is being done by this furnace and, so it like
Yeah.
gave us a lot more information of where,
What
if we do
goes
have
where.
issues, which ones we're talking about, where we're going, like it's not just a,
It's
I have no
almost like a
idea what's
roadmap.
wrong.
It's
Right.
almost a roadmap, what you
Good.
have here.
so.
In the, there was some suggestions in there that seemed pretty easy to me, and I don't know if they've been done yet, about replacing some ceiling tiles with the flow through stuff, I don't know, yeah, like that one
Oh.
over there that allows air to go up.
Yeah, we haven't replaced any, but they're in every room. That
No, but
should-
it said, like, in the town clerk's office, in the room behind it, I think it said that it needed
Needed
more,
additional,
more.
right,
Ventilation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Return.
return,
Returns,
thank you.
yeah.
Oh, that's easy enough to do. You buy those at Walmart.
Yeah, I know.
Home Depot.
Home Depot.
got 'em.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you could do that, and
I don't know if they've been done yet, but at least that's something
right,
easy,
right, yeah,
right?
yeah,
And the other thing that seemed easy was insulating
Right.
spray foaming the joints upstairs where the
Where the
floor,
I-beams are.
floor level insulated area met the vertical upstairs.
Yeah.
They were saying that that showed a lot of heat loss in that area.
There's cold air that comes in there in the winter and that staircase through. You're talking about the staircase going upstairs?
I'm talking about in between this floor and the one above it.
Yeah.
At the joints where it then
Yeah.
becomes insulated upstairs.
Is that something that can be done in-house with like catafoam, or do we have to hire a company to come spray foam it?
I would get someone's opinion on, they put a price tag on it of $2,000, I mean, and again, this is a,
Spray foam insulation is very expensive.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's not a couple $1,000s.
No, yeah.
Well, if you just do one where you
Right.
can see daylight, you can do that with the cans or whatever.
it seems like we could do it in-house.
But I don't know, is it cracks that you could fill with catafoam, or is it a flat area that needs to be spray foamed? I don't know.
It looked like it was more crack sealing, right? In that joint.
But maybe, is that in the EEI report?
It
or
is.
So maybe when I speak with the gentleman from EEI, I could get more specific information on that.
It's not in the EEI report.
It's in the northeast
in-
mechanical one, or the north country, north something.
New Hampshire Electric Co-op.
Yeah, so that was part of the EEI report.
Yeah,
the co-op.
Oh, it is.
So, yeah, when you
Okay,
talk to
from-
him,
from
yeah, try to
September
get some more
2020.
Info.
It's in there.
Okay,
The other thing in there is it looks at the heating systems and gives 5 to 6 choices of what we could do. One is to do the same, a new unit
Mhm.
that's the same as up there, then it upgrades up to a geothermal thing where we
Yeah,
dig up the
okay.
yard and bury pipes. I don't think putting the same ones up there is the right choice.
no,
I also don't think a geothermal thing is the right choice,
Right.
but there's
No.
some stages in between there that seems like it would make economic sense to go with a high efficiency condensing unit
Yep.
to replace those. Those seem to be like at the point of return on investment that made sense.
Mhm.
You get your money back sooner. Yeah, you could do geothermal, but it's a lot more money up front and granted, it's a big savings, but it takes a long time to get the
the
big
return.
upfront money back. So I would be in favor of, again, seeing if we can do that on a one this year, one the next year, one the next year type
Yeah.
situation like we did outside.
Sure, phase.
So if you're gonna talk to them, bring Nate in on this and
Yep.
see if we can, if we're gonna do that, let's put that in the budget for next year.
Sure. On it.
Fantastic.
I know you're gonna talk about the cemetery issue.
Mhm.
All right, we got a request for a proclamation for Childhood Cancer Awareness Week.
I have that up right here.
Let you do that
Great
too
minds.
then. Oh, any update on Black Mountain Road? Did the co-op come out and look at their?
The co-op. The co-op informed Nate that it most likely will not be done until October, but that they are hoping to come out in October to do the work. At this rate, Nate hasn't lost all hope, but it's very slim at this rate that Black Mountain will be done before winter, because that work for the co-op needs to be done first. And there's concerns with paving once it gets too cold, because it's not a good practice to pave when it's.
And you might not get asphalt company that's even open.
Well,
that's nearby.
and it gets, to get on someone's schedule at this point.
Yeah.
In the season,
Did-
and it won't be cost effective for have them to come out just to do that strip.
Right.
For
For what the co-op needs to do,
Mhm.
how much of the existing asphalt do they have to dig out? I mean, is it mostly in the trenches off to the side?
I think it is mostly in the trenches. I don't think that they have to, because we only have a base coat on right now. Am I
Right,
correct on
right.
that? Yeah. I think it's mostly, it drainage, it's-
We
Work.
can't do our drainage until they move their lines, because they're in the way, right?
Right, but-
It's in the trenches like you
Yeah.
said,
Okay,
because
yeah.
Dig Safe has come out and marked some. of
And
it,
Right,
and
right,
Okay,
yeah.
all right,
the cable company has come out and marked that, that's where most of the markings are in the trenches. I think.
okay.
but unfortunately, we're at the mercy of the co-op.
Right.
And if they say October and it's October 20th, you know,
We're not gonna get
Right,
it.
right, right, right.
Okay,
Stop paying your bill. Okay.
Yeah, no kidding. That'll get their attention.
Yep.
the only other thing I had on my list was to talk about if we needed to do anything to act upon the bond that we have with Forest Ridge regarding the detention ponds, but that issue is on the planning board's agenda for Wednesday night. Let's see what comes of that.
Transpires, yeah.
Let's talk about that at the next meeting then.
Yeah.
Okay.
So. And that's all that I had. Other than, I know you're gonna talk about cemetery.
Cemetery and the proclamation, yeah.
And the
We'll let
proclamation.
Jack.
No, go ahead.
Few things. First of all, I'd like to commend the powers to be to control two areas that really bothered me was the money that we spent in legal fees last year. I noticed the 9-month report came out. We've only spent roughly a fifth of what we had budgeted, so that's great. And I know the policy that you implemented that somebody to call an attorney has to go through you, get their approval. So that saved us a tremendous amount of money. And the same with the town engineer. I mean, I looked at both of those numbers and we're doing very, very good with them. So keep up the good work.
Thank you.
We had a meeting, you, I, and Nate and OJ walked down, and you were having a meeting on the 24th of August with Mark Bogosian about an easement for the townsfolk to make it easier than, you know, us having to build walls and stairways, et cetera,
The
for
old
access down
To the old
hall.
hall, yeah.
Yeah. And how did that meeting go?
He was very receptive to the idea. They don't, you know, he said someone can walk by some condos and say, I would love to live on that condo. It's beneficial for him as well. They don't have any immediate plans for development over there. They're still kind of working out what their master plan will be. It's more to have a presence on Main Street, but he was definitely receptive to the idea of moving the location of the easement. I think potentially our struggle might be with the curb cut and DOT. I know we don't plan on using that as a curb cut, but I don't know if DOT is going to chime in and not like that we would have a parking area right off of 112. But as far as the actual easement and the location of the easement, Mark was receptive to it.
Well, I mean, we have spot, sorry, I'm just gonna expound on, we have the spot to create a parking lot. Sure. Or we could park on the side of the road on 112. And I think what the town should do is just we'll park, once we have the walkway or whatever, let the cars park on the side of 112, and if that works forever, great. And then if it's not working with the state, then we can address, well, we have a parking spot. If you don't want us parking here, give us
Go
go
within, yeah.
I agree with that. I mean,
Sure.
there's lined parking on the edge of the road on the opposite side of the street.
True.
Just because it's not lined doesn't mean you can't park there.
Right.
You can park there and let people park there and almost wait till the state comes to us and say, hey, this is a problem, it's getting too crowded, fine.
Or
we
maybe
waive
it
this
never
whole
becomes a
area.
problem.
It might never.
Yeah,
True.
so, yeah, that's where I am.
I agree with that.
We had a meeting and we talked about the traffic. at North Country Council, asking them to intervene and come up with maybe a plan. I know coming up with the Highland Games, we're coming up with the Columbus Day weekend. And obviously that's, traffic is a bane for everybody that lives here. Have you heard anything more or met with any of the powers to be?
No, so we have a meeting scheduled for next Wednesday. Is that the 21st? I think is next
I
Wednesday.
believe so, yes.
To meet with Loon Mountain, Chad, myself. I've invited DOT. They haven't been extremely receptive. They're like, what's the problem on Columbus Day? I was like, well.
No problem.
No issues. So I did invite DOT representatives. Some of them are not available, but we wanted to extend the offer because we do have our own additional signage this year, so that is nice. And we do have the mechanism to go through Homeland Security like we did last time, FEMA, Paul Hatch, and maybe ask for another. I guess the reason why I wanted to rope DOT in is potential additional signage on the other side of the Cape, expect delay, on the Kank, expect delays, maybe something at the overhead that says Kangamanga's route traffic or something, expect delays, just so people are more aware of what they're getting themselves into when they go over the mountain and try to come
Gotcha.
back. But we are meeting at 2 o'clock on the 21st, and you are invited to attend if you'd like.
The meeting here.
We're meeting here, yes, next Wednesday, the 21st. We did talk about trying to meet prior to Highland Games, but we felt like they have a good handle on Highland Games, and the traffic concerns are not as severe as Columbus Day.
They have
So
limited tickets, as you know.
Limited
They're actually
tickets
sold
and-
out on Saturday.
it's a lot of the bus routes, parking areas. It's a better system just in general. Columbus Day is a lot of it's out of our control. It's the people who are traveling, through our community. So we have less control over it. So we're just trying to come up with a plan of signage and verbiage and some details potentially.
Right.
and whatnot.
Gotcha.
I'm glad you mentioned DOT, because my next item has to do with the bike path and the crossing across 112 there. Coming from the east to the west, going both ways, there are signs that say bike crossing X and R. Going west to east, there's a green sign with white lettering that says bike path, and it has arrows. On the other side, just the arrows, it doesn't say bike path. But I've noticed the overbrush there, and I've had 3 complaints now, actually 4 complaints. 2 from people walking and 2 from people on bikes, that the brush there is blocking the vehicular traffic from seeing who's either coming across in bikes or people walking to cross. I mean, they're sticking their heads out, their bodies out. So I don't know if that's DOT's responsibility, but if we can check into it. But that sign, and look, it's definitely missing a piece to it. And the sign might even be a little bit close. Have you noticed that, Ron?
No, sorry.
Yeah, look, when you're coming from the Kank over the Kank into town, there's a green sign there and it's just got 2 arrows. It means nothing. The other way going out of town, it says bike path with the arrows, not the yellow signs, because the yellow signs are there. But something's got to be done there. I hate to say lights, but Jesus, you don't want to see somebody get killed. I know last week somebody complained to me, they were waiting to cross. No, they were stopped to let people cross. And there was a dump truck behind them, giving them the horn big time and almost wanted to pull around them. And then they saw the people come out of the pathway and go across. So, if you would check
I
into
can bring,
that, talk to them, and maybe if you get them to that
I'll
meeting.
talk to Nate first and see if what we could do in-house without,
Yeah.
having to go through DOT.
Yeah, if we're allowed to do that,
Yeah.
I agree. Same thing happened to me. I slowed way down and there was a lady on a bicycle who wasn't very good on a bicycle.
Yeah,
And I gave her plenty of room and the guy behind me was like all over me because I
yeah, because you stopped.
slowed down.
Following the law.
Yeah,
I mean, not to negate the fact that we need a sign or something, but I was on Main Street in front of the Gypsy, coming this way, stopped, and a car went around, and the lights are flashing, and a car went around me in the center lane to go around me. And almost ran 2 people over in the crosswalk. I'm like, seriously, well, I kind of went left to run into him a little bit. He stopped because he had no choice, but seriously, I mean, he was gonna run those people over.
I've seen that too.
Oh,
So, it's something we gotta make
absolutely.
people aware of. Granicus, do we have a number that they've come up with as far as the amount of people doing the
Final number?
Airbnbs?
I actually haven't seen one, like I said, the last time we looked was, I think, around that 600 mark, 605.
Nothing final yet.
607, yeah, so, but nothing
So
final
they're
yet.
paying their way right now.
Yes, they're gonna make us go up and running live before they've actually finished all the back end work, before they've identified all the compliant properties and whatnot, so we can start using the website and we can start the registrations through the website. They told us that in the beginning, that we'll get you to a point, we get you to like a 75%, 80% point, we let you go live, you could start collecting revenue that way, people start getting used to doing the renewals or the registrations that way, but we won't have final numbers.
Then
you
they'll
know,
finish the identification.
finish the
Right, yeah,
identification. Our
gotcha.
goal is to have it finished by the end of the year, so in January 1, when the renewal process comes, we have accurate numbers.
Perfect, perfect.
And the last thing I had, number of people and employers have contacted me about workforce housing. You know, we've had a parcel in town, industrial park. There are two individuals over there, Mike Donahue and Kevin Sullivan. I thought I would be able to talk to Mike this weekend, young Mike. I didn't see him, but I went over to speak to Kevin Sullivan. And Kevin at one point was adamant against it. Now he said, you know, if somebody bought my property, they could use my building. If it ever went through, you know, that's the decision the town has to make. That he would be willing to, you know, sell the property so it could be used for affordable. It might be like a maintenance shop, well, the construction instead of a portable trailer. I mean, obviously, but you know, a couple of people stopped me and talked to me about, you know, my son and daughter can't live here. They can't afford to live here. We need some, they're working in town, so they're living in my basement, or they're living back in their bedroom, and they don't want to be there. They want to be out on their own. They're not kids. So I'd like to, with the board's blessing, try to convene a group. And I made a list of the people I think would be, I did put a call into Alex Ray. I haven't heard back from my call 2 days ago. Brian Norton from the mountain, who has 900 winter employees, some seasonal. Scott Rice from the station, Mark Bogosian, Dennis Duchamp, next name, OJ Robertson, and Dave Rogers. All of those people have a vested interest in this housing. In your own case, you know, you need it more so if it's temporary housing in the summertime. Your people move out, people from the mountain move in for the winter. So there's not a lost revenue. I mean, and the town would get tax rate, you know, on the land over there. It's sitting vacant. How many lots are over there, Tammy?
Yeah, I love, I've been saying for years, we should use that piece of property for it, no question. I don't think we need to use all of it. And I've been saying, if we put up a fence, we have another second entrance onto Connection Road.
Yeah.
So we fence it and put up, you know, evergreens and separate it and use this, what is it, maybe the east half of it, yes, or south, or whatever, south. And it will still have 3 industrial lots to sell, 3 more. So we could still have our industrial park, our businesses or whatever. We might have to use one of them for a turnaround at the end because we'll be eliminating that turnaround. And then that gives us 3, 4 more lots to put up workforce housing. What is the one in Littleton that came down? Is it a head? They had a great proposal on that lot. It was, you know, a fantastic proposal for workforce housing. And that this room filled up and said, we don't want low income housing. Well, it's not low income housing. It's workforce housing. And I not to say we don't need a committee or whatever, but I don't think for that, I don't think we need one. I think we, the selectmen, need to pull the trigger. We need to get it on the warrant to change the zoning so that can be residential, because right now it can't be. And we can't change that, the townspeople have to. I think we get a head back in here and have them come up with a plan like they had, and we need to sell this to the townsfolk so that we can get workers in here and get them a place. I've been saying this for years. And if you, I mean, have a committee and do it, that's great, but I don't think we need to. I think we can start this ball rolling
I'm
today.
not talking about a committee. I'm talking about people that have money, like OJ or Alex Ray. And people.
A head already came in with a
No,
proposal. I bet
well,
they still have that on
with the
file or
with-
whatever.
With the governor, I don't want to belabor the point, but with the governor's, you know, $100 million that he put in the budget.
That's spent, unless you have your plans,
No,
you have
no,
the
I
permit
know,
in hand.
no, I know, but we get Kyla down here and, you know, what was it, Kyla Tavares? Get her down here, get her to meet with the business leaders, because you said nobody showed up that day. That
It wasn't the business leaders.
no
she wanted-
developers, that was for the developers,
developers,
but no
correct.
developers showed up.
None.
But if you take the people that have a vested interest that are gonna make money because they then have staff that are housed local, that are, not gonna say, geez, I can't work because I don't wanna spend $6 or $4 on a gallon of gas to be coming over, 45 minutes, 5 days a week. I'll come over 3 days a week. So these people that have had to shut down, these business people that have had to shut down, have a vested interest in doing this. I think I told you, a young man from a chef at the Common Man contacted me. And he said, Jack, I've got $200,000 I'd like to put up and get this going. I said, well, let's get to your boss. I said, Alex, and see if he's interested in doing something. And if you've got people, Timmy, that are in our community, A-Head is in Littleton. I respect them. Another group that I've said and has given them money to do projects. But, if you've got people that are businessmen, that are local, that know the townspeople here, their kids work in these places, see if they want to buy into this. If they buy into it, it just makes it easier for all of us, not just the three of us. So,
The thing with with the government financing that they get, it's very specific. It can never be used for anything but workforce housing, and there will always be a minimum and a maximum.
well, there's an income limit.
Income
It's
limits.
60% of AMI, area median income, or
Absolutely.
80% of
If we
AMI.
get these private investors to go in and build it, that's scary to me, because in 10 years, it could be high-end condos.
No, because you put deed restrictions in there, Timmy. Once you change it, you limit exactly. Obviously, this is just preliminary thoughts. There's nothing cast,
I still think that we need to do this now to get it on and I don't know if we can put it on the warrant, or if the planning board has to put it on the warrant to change the zoning. Is if we can't get that changed, then we don't need to be talking about that anymore ever. If the townspeople, if the voters aren't gonna change that, then that's a complete no option. So that's gonna be the first step.
I'm gonna agree with Jack here. I think getting a group together with a vested interest to look at all the options is the way to go. Ahead is one option. Private and local investors is another option.
Absolutely.
And with, if your investors are gonna be the Common Man, Loon Mountain, Woodstock Inn,
Right.
Whale's Tail, all right. None of those are gonna allow anything to be built where it can be Airbnb. There's zero point to that. So that's not gonna happen. It's not realistic.
Well, nothing can be built there now anyway for housing.
What needs to be done is to get some community support behind it, which there was a lot of resistance last time. And a lot of the resistance was over wording like affordable housing or workforce housing. It's just gonna be employee housing or housing.
Multifamily housing,
It's just gonna, right.
long term.
Employee housing, yeah.
Okay, and
Have
I
fun
would
on your
be-
committee.
I would be.
I like all those
I'm-
names. Does my son
I
out?
would be excited to be on that committee, actually. But I would be in favor
it.
if the group wanted to just do the section that we had originally talked about. Or if they wanted to do a larger section that included
Buys out.
Kevin's property. And I would want to do that
Parcel
on a friendly basis. If he was
Receptive.
receptive to this and wanted to do this, whether, I don't know if he wants a property somewhere else or a time period, whatever, let's talk.
Yeah.
Go
Let's
for it.
find out what people's needs and wants are and see
That's
what we
what I
can,
thought.
yeah.
Again, I didn't want to do anything without.
No, I think
Publicly,
anything to address workforce housing is a great idea. Absolutely.
And, I'll start making calls again and just see if we can convene a meeting just to discuss it. And there is at least one other parcel in town, privately owned, but it would be ideal, in my opinion, because, the problem with when you start talking workforce housing is NIMBY, not in my backyard.
Yes.
We need it,
But if
I
you say
want it, but
employee-
NIMBY, not in my backyard. So the parcel that I have in mind, you folks know what I'm thinking. I think that would be ideal.
Go for it. You don't need a vote to form a committee,
No,
you just do it.
no,
Yeah.
I'll start reaching out, see if we can convene something.
Yeah.
It's a-
An ad
It's a
hoc.
group
yeah.
of people who are
Yeah.
gonna get together and talk, and there's no
Brainstorming.
brainstorm, right, there's no
No, yeah.
official
Quasi
capacity.
judicial.
However, keep in mind that if the two of you are on this committee, it has to be noticed as a meeting of the selectmen. because you're talking about town business, which is fine, absolutely fine.
Yeah, you just have to
And
give
it,
us a
it
heads
has
up.
to be a noticed meeting and minutes have to be taken and all that
Well,
good
it's always
stuff.
good when you have a not, even an ad hoc meeting, that you let people know, then they don't think things are being done secretively or behind closed
Well, you
doors.
have to have minutes and stuff
Yeah.
anyway. It has to be a public
Well,
meeting,
yeah.
so.
You can come and take the minutes if you.
No, thank you. I'll pass, but thanks. I push you out of your chair, not him out of his chair. Just kidding.
That's all I have. to say.
I
Let me
think it's a
know,
great
let me
idea,
know when
Jack.
that
Yeah,
is.
well, we'll
I
see
will,
if we can set it up.
I will be there.
Thank you for doing that, Jack.
Yes, thank you.
Jim has a question.
I'm sorry, Jim?
In these places you're talking about, is there any way to restrict it so that whoever lives there works in North Woodstock or Lincoln, that they can't live there and work in Plymouth?
Yeah, I think you could probably do that with like a lease agreement, right? I
Jim,
don't know.
if I
It-
may.
Go ahead.
I'm
If it's
sorry.
workforce housing, you would only be offered it if you were employed by, No?
It depends on who owns it and how it's set up.
okay.
Well,
But I'll let
Jim, if I
Jack
may,
answer.
now, before I retired, I was the director of public housing, 2,000 units of public housing. We had a lease on our waiting list for leases that you gave preference to local residents. You gave preference to veterans, you gave preference to disabled. But
Public
local
safety
residents,
workers.
local
Right.
preference was the biggest one. Because my waiting list was literally 5 or 6 years long. But the people that lived in my hometown of 60,000 people, they got the first preference. So if a local resident comes in before OJ, who's from Lincoln, and they can be on the list a year, OJ could have been on there 4 years, he's still waiting. The person that's been on there just came in yesterday, he gets ahead of him.
That could be like bylaws too.
Yeah, well, that'd be in the setup, when you set
Sure.
up the documents for it. You know, you set it up so that it triggers, it's tailored to your needs. So you don't want, right, people that live, working up in Berlin, living in the workforce housing here that you've created. Let Berlin do its own fair share. But that's a good point.
And that's why I think that the local businesses built something, they would make sure you're employed here, you live there, you can't work someplace else.
Oh, and you know, at least a couple of, 3 of the people that I mentioned there have places here, like Loon just bought a building over in Woodstock, 6-unit building. Dave Rogers has something, Scott Rice has something, so they all know it's needed. And again, this would be a concerted effort to, you know, really create something that they could be proud of, that's gonna be everlasting. It's not something that's gonna be, you know, need to be taken down 5 years from now, so. Anyways, that's my story.
And I think there's a lot of, I'll get you in one second, Q. I think there's a lot of options as to how this could proceed. We heard from a head, and they do a great job building, managing, overseeing everything. But there could be alternative structures, like an LLC that's formed to build and own the thing. And those LLC members could be Loon Mountain,
Exactly.
Whale's Tail, Common Bear,
Exactly what I'm-
okay? And now, if they're the owners, there almost doesn't need to be, you know, the priority list that you talked about. It's like, if Loon Mountain's on that board, who are
They're
they
gonna
gonna rent
employ their
to?
own.
Some guy from Berlin who's
Right.
working in Berlin, or
Not
they're
to pick on
employed,
Berlin, just what came to mind, yep.
wherever, Bethlehem.
Timbuktu.
If you
yeah.
work in Bethlehem or you work at Loon Mountain, who's Loon Mountain gonna rent to?
Right.
It's, I mean, there's a whole bunch of options in there, I think, of how this could be done. So anyway,
I do have a question
sure,
regarding somewhat to what you're disputing. My name is Elaine O'Rourke and I live at 19 O'Rourke Drive. My backyard is adjacent to Days Inn. I was gonna say the Beacon.
you know what you're talking about.
So I wanna know what's going on. My backyard is there and I know something is going on. Cabins being ahead, not ahead. Who's the other one?
Correct.
Thank you. Tri-County Cap getting involved. They're building some kind of center. You all look like you don't know what I'm talking about.
I know where you're talking about.
What
Do
kind
you
of
know what I'm
center?
talking about?
I don't know what you're talking
I don't
about.
know.
It's the cabins behind me.
The Beacon with the Beacon
The
North.
old Beacon, right?
The old
The old
beacons,
Beacon.
yeah, the old beacons. got
Cabins and there's a house and there's some cabins behind the old
He
Beacon.
has 6 or 8 anyway,
Right.
maybe 10,
Oh, yeah, no, there's at least
Right.
10
yeah.
Yeah,
going up
and
and then across.
I've heard it's going to be for homeless. I've heard it's going to be for drug rehab. I've heard all types of things, but I've never heard really what it is.
What is he building? Is he building another structure?
I don't think he's building another structure.
Okay.
He's adding on to the structures.
Currently,
I beg your pardon?
currently,
Yeah,
Yes.
I'll check on that.
Does he have a planning? Does he have a permit to?
I have no
I
idea.
don't-
Did
he
he
doesn't
get a
have a-
permit
He does not have
for,
a permit.
he doesn't have a permit.
did
no.
he get a permit for extending his home
No.
right up to the next cabin?
Thank you
So
for
I'm a
bringing
little
this to our
concerned
attention.
about this.
Thank you for bringing it to our attention. It's something we're definitely going to look into.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely. No, thank you. We appreciate that.
Thanks for hearing me.
Yes, absolutely.
Have a good night.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Because that could be affordable housing.
Did she sign it?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Interesting.
I'll be checking on that tomorrow.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, yeah. I might take a ride tonight.
Yeah, well, I'll drive around, make some noise.
Yeah, there you go.
No, was not aware of that.
Yeah.
Did you have anything else?
No, sir.
Okay, I'm gonna start with, we've got an email, I'll tell you it's from in a minute, 'cause I'm sorry, at the top here. Request a proclamation recognizing September 25 through October 1 as Childhood Cancer Awareness Week in Lincoln. And then they have a sample proclamation, which, do you want me to read this?
Did you have a chance to read this?
Yes, I did. Yep,
And I absolutely agree, I mean, it's just a proclamation.
right.
They,
That was in our emails, yeah.
Okay. Then why don't you read it and then just adding at the end, after the whereases,
yeah,
it says, you know,
yeah.
that we in Lincoln proclaim, what was it, 25th, September 25th to October 21st as Childhood Cancer Awareness Week in the town of Lincoln.
Perfect. And I just want to say that their preface here is that cancer is the leading cause of death by disease among children in our country today. This tragic disease is detected in more than 16,000 of our country's young people each and every year, which is pretty sad. So I'm going to start with all the whereases.
Yep, go ahead.
And I will email this to Jane for the minutes afterwards. Whereas the American Cancer Fund for Children and Kids Cancer Connection report cancer is the leading cause of death by disease among US children between infancy and age 15. This tragic disease is detected in more than 16,000 of our country's young people each and every year. And whereas 1 in 5 of our nation's children loses his or her battle with cancer, many infants, children, and teens will suffer from long-term effects of comprehensive treatment, including secondary cancers. An estimated 400,000 children and adolescents are diagnosed with cancer globally each year. And whereas founded nearly 30 years ago by Stephen Firestein, a member of the philanthropic Max Factor Cosmetics family, the American Cancer Fund for Children Incorporated, Kids Cancer Connection Incorporated, along with Lions Club International, are dedicated to helping these children and their families. And whereas the American Cancer Fund for Children and Kids Cancer Connection provide a variety of vital patient psychosocial services to children undergoing cancer treatment at the Children's Hospital at Dartmouth Hitchcock Medical Center, Dartmouth Hitchcock Norton Cotton Cancer Center in Lebanon, as well as participating hospitals throughout the country, thereby enhancing the quality of life for these children and their families. And whereas the American Cancer Fund for Children and Kids Cancer Connection also sponsored toy distributions, Laughternoon, Laughter is Healing, positive appearance programs, pet assisted therapies, KCC Supercar Experience, educational programs, and hospital celebrations in honor of a child's determination and bravery to fight the battle against childhood cancer. We do the closing.
Then we proclaim the week of September 25th to October 1st to be the Childhood Cancer Awareness Week in the town of Lincoln.
Thank you. Jane, I'm going to forward this to you, so you have all those whereas.
Please.
Right now,
Thank
I'm gonna just do it right now.
Can you
before I
add
forget.
in what I wrote?
Um,
Put it to the email.
No, she can get it off the recording. she'll get it off the recording for the minutes.
I actually think Jane also got the email too.
Oh, well, you get it
For what?
again anyway.
For the childhood
I
cancer.
get that.
Oh,
You,
okay.
you'll have it now, I just sent it.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, so that's that one. The other thing I had was, I wanna say AEDs.
Yes,
The Rotary has got a grant to put outdoor, IEDs. AEDs, thank you. IEDs is a bomb, isn't it? So it's not a bomb, it's the defibrillator, correct, okay. Anyway, they want them outside so that they're accessible in an emergency. And where we have cameras outside, it's a perfect place, outside, take our inside
unit, right.
unit, thank you, and put it outside. And they buying the boxes and the whole bit. The only cost really to the town of Lincoln is it's gonna have to be plugged in so that it's heated or, you know, whatever, so it doesn't freeze in the winter. So where we have electricity going to our new door now, we can somehow get that done. And Rotary will take care of all that. We'll just have to pay the couple bucks a month it costs to not freeze it up in the winter. Because we haven't met for 3 weeks and they needed to get their order in and everything, Karina did respond that we were, you know, it's a great idea and whatnot. I just wanted to put it out there that we're an outdoor
Yeah, I
unit.
spoke to Nate and he said
Yeah.
he could help identify a location on the building
Absolutely.
that would be easy and,
Yep.
you know, the
Mhm.
chief Tavers is, you know, also trying to
Right.
figure out what the best location
Right,
is.
right, right.
He didn't see an issue with it, so I figured we wouldn't see an issue.
Yeah, no, not at all. I think it's a great idea. And I don't,
Just a quick thought, when you say outside, I mean, what about like the lobby of the police downstairs? Because I mean, that's 24/7.
they have one already in their lobby, so we would
Okay.
have one outside up here.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
There's several other places in town that have been identified, I believe outside the school is one. And they're all places that have surveillance cameras so that they won't get vandalized or stolen or, yeah.
I think the depot was one too, wasn't it?
I believe you're right.
Yeah.
I forget all the whole list of them, but there was a bunch. And it's through a Rotary grant. They get these out exterior boxes and whatnot, so I think it's a great idea. I just wanted to bring that up. And we covered that one. I've had 3 or 4 phone calls or emails in the last couple of weeks about burying the power lines on Main Street again. I mean, I know it's nothing on our radar. We don't have the millions and millions of dollars to do it. However, people are still bringing it up. Of course, more so in the summer than any other time. This is to do with the cemetery. The town clerk got a request, or the cemetery got a written request on a Riverside Cemetery inquiry form. It's the original request came in on September 7th of 2021. Requesting, it's someone who owns a second home. They wanted the resident rate at the cemetery versus the non-resident rate. And the cemetery trustees have indicated no, so that it was relayed back to her by our town clerk. And she's written again to request that they reconsider that decision. And wants a call from the cemetery trustees. The town clerk has reached out to the cemetery. This person requesting doesn't want to hear from the town clerk again. She wants to hear from the trustees. And our town clerk has reached out to the trustees and with no response. They still, after a year, haven't responded to this woman. So I would like, if we could, the selectmen, instruct our town manager to reach out to the trustees to see if maybe she can get a response from them so that they can contact this woman and give her a definitive answer.
And it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, the policy is, unless you're on the voting list here as a resident, then you cannot be.
No, you have to be a legal resident. You don't have to be a registered voter as long as you're a legal resident. And a second homeowner that doesn't spend, it has to be a legal domicile. And there is an RSA that defines your legal domicile.
Don't let the
And-
residency.
Right, a second homeowner that lives and eats and breathes and works in another state is not a resident, so. But
Is
if
this a
it's,
former resident?
no, she's just been a second homeowner forever. Not a former resident. I think that the town
She's still.
clerk did forward this to all of us.
I got it
You should
too,
have
yeah.
it. Still a second homeowner.
Catch that.
Uh,
I don't mind making a phone call.
Okay,
Thank you.
and I just wanted to make sure that you guys were okay with that before I asked you to do that.
I don't think I can change the answer.
we
Nor
don't
do
wanna
I
change-
want to weigh in.
No, we don't want to change the
Right.
answer.
I
What the
would just
cemetery
like to
trustees
facilitate the
say,
phone call.
they just need to contact her and give her that answer. She wants to hear from the cemetery trustees, not their middleman. And they're refusing to do that, and they need to, it's their job, that's what they signed up for, so. Next,
Thank you for doing that,
yes,
and just be clear with them that you understand you're not their boss,
No, right.
and but on behalf of the board, you're just letting them know that she's looking for a phone call back.
right,
You can't mandate that, but you're just reminding them that
Constituent service.
yeah, I mean,
I mean,
if they didn't call, if they did a written, response other than the word no.
I
But a
think she
phone call, I
listed
know a
her.
phone call is what she wants, but
Yeah.
It
we're not
doesn't, yeah,
telling them what to do,
No, no.
but we're,
encouraging them to respond to this woman that just wants a clear answer
Yeah.
from the trustees, not the middleman. And then the other thing I had, we got 3 more 91A requests, which again, anybody can put a 91A request at any time for any reason. I just want to point out that, where is it here? Let's start with this one, Ted Smith. On August 28th, put in another 91A request for all records, blah, 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 regarding conflict of interest, town personnel manual, debt general order regarding outside employment, or department general order regarding outside employment, policy regarding conflicts of interest, any police department employee currently or worked in the past 6 months for Loon Mountain in a conflict of interest position. Among other things, town staff has spent more than 4 hours plus a lot of attorney fees on this because it's a personnel issue. We have to run it through the attorneys. Just pointing that out. There's a second one on the same date from the same person,
Who's it from?
Ted
Ted
Smith.
Smith.
Oh, I just want them.
Oh.
From Ted, another one from Ted Smith on the same day.
Sorry.
All right.
Regarding Stephen Bomba, timesheet payroll, Michael Wheaton, timesheet payroll, any documents that they were paid on certain dates. Any information the Board of Selectmen received that Bomba was not on duty at the time of the accident. I know I didn't receive anything. I 100% he was on duty. And this has been a little over 6 hours spent on this, plus again, because it's personnel, attorney fees. Then there's a third one. So this
Who's that one
makes,
from?
from Ted Smith. So this makes 5 in 5 weeks,
Pretty close.
roughly. This was September 8th, 91A request. Running log dealing with Bomba's accident and death maintained by Chief Smith. Stating that the records were maintained in the right drawer of my desk. Starts from the time the incident was called into me at home, covers the detail of the accident, what I discovered, who I spoke to, and all records, no matter what form. A log was in the desk at the time of my suspension and removed after that point. As far as I know, it hasn't been removed. That everything in that, most everything in that drawer is still there,
Yeah.
but whatever.
Chad wasn't 100% sure of every single document that was in
Right,
the
right.
desk drawer.
Yeah.
So we're going to review and see if we have
So-
anything and respond appropriately.
This one's got 2 hours so far, plus attorney fees, again, because it is personnel. And expected at least another, or a total of 4 to 5 hours on that. So we're paying 4 to 5 hours of staff time, 6 hours of staff time, 4 hours of staff time, plus a lot of attorney fees on more 91A requests that he's absolutely entitled to, and we will continue to get him the information he requests every time he requests it. For any reason, it doesn't matter what it is, because he's entitled to them. I just want to put it out there. And that is all I have.
I have one more, right?
Go ahead.
I'd like to, bring to the board's attention that saw Don Landry at church, and he was greatly appreciative of the citation at the gate.
fantastic.
Did you see it?
I did not. I was gone. But I am greatly appreciative of his flowers. They're gorgeous.
And that brings up, I'd like to do the same thing for a young lady that lives down there, Dolores Reed. She's got beautiful flowers there, and I think, hearing from the town that we notice and the townsfolk notice, I mean, the color of the home, it's very colorful, as you know. People call it the rainbow house. And
I love
they
it.
take
It's
pictures and
fabulous,
they
yeah.
stop, and so again, just. a
Doesn't
good
the girl,
citation.
the girl that does her flowers, is it the same? I think it's the same one that does the Woodstock Gibbs flowers, because theirs are
Scott
amazing.
Scott
as
does
well.
a lot of them. Scott,
Yes.
Donna Whitehill does it.
Yeah. Fan, she does a great job, absolutely does a great job. Now Donnie Landry does his own.
Yep.
Every single day, it's fabulous.
I felt like I was stalking him, taking pictures, and he was like on the porch, and I'm trying to be like.
It was great that you included the multiple pictures in the.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's great, thank you for doing
Did you
that.
see this?
Yes. I heard.
That was a little second. All right, just a couple of,
One for Dolores.
Oh. I like that Donnie does his own and we see him out there all the time, on his hands and knees and getting his own flowers done and everything. I mean, not to negate, what, is it Donna that does them, is that her name?
Yeah. Donna.
Because she does beautiful work, but I could pay Donna to do my flowers and then you'd be sending me a letter. It's not the same thing, in my opinion. Just saying, not to say that they're not gorgeous, because the whole house, the place, it's beautiful. I think this was done, a great idea to do this for Donnie, because you see him out there on his hands and knees, every day in and day out,
Yeah.
and it's.
The first time I went to take pictures. I
Yes,
felt like I couldn't
yeah.
take pictures because he was out there pulling
Right,
weeds.
right.
I probably should have.
I had to go by and tell him too, there was a water ban, should be one.
Deb?
I don't know how long before you go into public participation, but I'm hungry and I want to go home.
Okay,
So I just want to say, I just want to publicly thank Nate and his crew. I came home one day to find a backhoe and a dump truck in my driveway. The next day, the fence was down. The next day, it was all back up. They seeded it. They did a fantastic job, and I just want to publicly acknowledge them myself.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah,
Thank you. We are so happy with him and all that he
we're
does.
lucky to have it.
Well, they did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
All nice and neat on both sides of the fence.
Great. Good to hear. Thank
Good
you.
job.
Is there anything else while you're here before you leave?
No, I'm just
Yeah,
hungry.
go get
I wanna
dinner.
go.
That's fine, that's fine. Thank you for coming in.
Yes, thanks. We have the summary of the valuation inventory that we need to sign at MS1 for the state. I don't really need to vote on it. This is just the saying that this is.
Nope, that's just the MS one.
This is the actual numbers. John put them all together.
Mhm.
So I've signed it. We also got a letter. I'll start public participation with a letter from someone who lives here in town. The electricity bill here is set to double, and unlike most municipalities elsewhere, we have an effective monopoly here with New Hampshire Electric Co-op. Can the town of Lincoln consider installing community solar or some other method that would increase competition and lower rates? I think if we were gonna do solar, I don't know if it would be a community thing or for the town buildings, if we were even gonna move in that direction. I know that people have done community solar where a specific piece of land and different people invest in it. That could be an option. I mean, I don't really have an answer for this. I didn't know if anyone had any input or wanted to discuss this. All right,
Thank you for the letter. For the email.
all right, well,
Who's it from?
it's from Jody Perry on School Street.
We feel your pain. Our light bills are doubling as well as everyone else's, so we definitely feel your pain. We do not have any plans in the near future. It's possibly something that we could look into. It is not a priority at this time.
And I guess I would agree with that and add the comment that personally, if I were gonna be involved in getting a solar project done in the town of Lincoln, it would be a town project for town buildings. You know, if a group wanted to do a community thing, buy a piece of land, put private, really private venture. Then I'll open,
Those all just,
they're all money transfers.
I'll take those, please.
I'll open up for public participation, Paul.
Yeah, I had a comment based on your last letter that you read. The town and our CIP just appropriates more money for solar to look at, I believe, the Camp Rec area. But I think that, you know, given the fact that the increased utility rates from New Hampshire Electric Co-op, which most people are served by in town Lincoln, it might be beneficial for the planning board to take a look at the ordinance and see if they can make it a little less restrictive to allow more citizens to be able to take advantage of government incentives to be able to install solar so that they could put it on their house and recoup some savings maybe from it. My next comment is towards what you said about the heating systems for the, I guess it must be the town building. One of the unique things about a municipality is that you're like the government, you go on and on forever. I mean, that building that you're in has been there for generations. Had they put geothermal in way back then, if it was available, you probably would have been reaping some significant savings today. So I would just encourage you to not just look at what's financially palatable now as a municipality. I think you have to look at the future and see that, you know, if this is a long-term building that's going to be a municipal building again forever, you might want to look at some of those other options, whether it's geothermal or solar or any of the other options that are out there available. I think energy is going to still be very important from now to the great beyond, but the town should look at that. I mean, and the CIP committee looked at that this year. We weren't going to put any money in for solar, but we did as a result of the increased utility rates. So that.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, but I didn't think you funded that line item. I don't think there was
Yes,
any
we did.
line item. Do you have
Yeah.
that? You-
I don't have mine in front of me, but I don't think we did either, Paul, but I could be mistaken.
I could be too, because I don't have.
I think you take a look. We funded some money in it for this year.
For the Cane Rec area?
I believe it was for the Kank in order for Tara to do that. Now, Jack, you were there. What do you think? I mean, I remember talking about it substantially and saying, you know, we've got to start doing something here, especially if the utility rates, New Hampshire Electric Co-op's going up 70% this year. So, and the federal government is going to have all sorts of financial incentives in order to install a solar. You probably couldn't even get it now if you tried, because I bet they're all real busy. But I mean, I think we've got to look at some of these things. I really do. I mean, and it's totally different than what a regular homeowner has, because a regular homeowner maybe can stay in their house for who knows how long till they want to sell it. I mean, it could be 20 years, 10 years, 50 years, who knows? But a municipality is like the thing, we go on forever, and hopefully, and so the investment can be spread out over a much longer term period. So I'm just trying to encourage you to take a look at things like that, because don't be so short-termed about it, because, you know, like I said, towns go on for quite a while, and even though the original cost of the investment may be substantial, I mean, if you were to take a look at geothermal, I'll bet and I'm not sure about this, but I would bet that there's some government money coming out for that type of investment, because energy is really up there on the government's list of supplying funding or assistance. I know when I looked at it for my house several years ago, I just missed it by a little bit, and I probably would have put in geothermal. I'm going to be looking at solar myself, but some of the town's ordinances currently, they're a little restrictive, you know, and I'm not sure that that's probably the best thing for the town. considering that, 70% is huge. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Just to respond to, first of all, your comments about the land use, you're on the planning board. Bring that up with the planning board, because, we can talk about what we want, but that's a planning board issue. I agree with you about the geothermal, but I guess that, as a town leader, I want to prioritize when and how we do that. And my honest thought is, if you're serious about long-term and saving money for the town long-term, the place to do the geothermal is at the new town building that we're hoping to build over there, where we're gonna be having site work and digging and all of that stuff done. So the cost to put it in will be minimal, because it'll be part of the construction of the whole building. If we can have a building over there with geothermal and solar that basically has free energy or near free energy for the life of the building, that, as you said, will probably, 100 years, obviously we'll
Oh,
have years and all that. But that payback, I think, first of all, I think there's gonna be more money available for a new construction like that. And second of all, I think that the payback on that is gonna be far more than here. Not that we shouldn't do it here, but our focus for now should be over there. And we can't do everything at once,
No, and I agree.
Won't pass it, the town won't pass it, so let's not even ask for it. But that's the place to do it, in my opinion.
I agree, OJ, with you. I mean, I think we should look at all the new buildings. I mean, as well as what's existing, and that's why during the CIP, I was really, I wanted to do something with solar at, for the Camp Rec area. Because as well as I do, when funding comes from the government, it's here today and gone tomorrow. And, the fact that we have some buildings that could reap the benefits of that grants and what's available for that are now. I mean, Joe Biden's energy package that he put out there was, I think, pretty substantial. And Karina could probably look into it and know more than I do for sure. But, and I'm sure there's a lot of people after it. But, it's, when you get an opportunity where the government's going to fund energy conservation, you really want to look at it, because, like I said, I can only relate it to my own experience. When I was going to do it here at my house 4 years ago, I just missed it, or I would have done geothermal. It was that close. Had the government money still been available, I would have done it myself. And I encourage people to look at that, because I think it's, I just can't imagine paying 70% more for your energy. And if you take a look at fuel, I mean, they were saying heating fuel may go up to as much as $8 a gallon. I mean, and I don't know if that's true or not. I'm in a consortium for my propane, so I pay less, and that's why I eat with propane. But I mean, it is energy in a municipality is truly, it's a long-term project, because municipalities can spread that cost out over a long term. So I just encourage you to look at it. I think it's worthwhile for every building that you have. That's all I have. Thank you.
Juan, did you end him? All right, I'll make a motion, good to non-public. This is a personnel, legal.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye. I get to use the ladies room first.
So do I.
You gonna use the ladies room?
Yeah, that's it.